Welcome to another episode of the From Her View podcast with myself, Sade Camille. And as always, I'm excited to come onto the podcast and just share. From Her View is a podcast about elevating our mindset with Christ because we need to be renewed in our mind out here in these streets. Okay, that's the most powerful thing that we have is our mind, our will, our emotions. That what encompasses our soul, right, and our spirit, man. So we got work to do, but typically I come onto the podcast, usually have my notes or whatever, but we're spitting off the dome today. We're spitting off the dome because this is fresh. This is like right out the skillet. You know what I'm saying? This is like that fresh bacon, fresh cornbread, like it's fresh. So I just had to immediately record. Okay, not immediately because I had to do other stuff. But I said this is going to be my topic of discussion. So you have to understand when we use the terms like spiritual warfare or this is a war, or even the Bible, we say this is not a war. We wrestle against not flesh and blood, but spirits and principalities in high places. And it's very true. We in modern day attach different names to these things. And so we attach a name to it and it kind of desensitizes the fact that you're being attacked. So I was having a conversation with my daughter today and just talking about that in particular, because for out of nowhere, like obviously, we as some of us, as girls and we have our girl time and there's a lot of things that are going on hormonally. And what's good about that is like, we know the difference, especially if you got an app, girl, I'll be quick to open up that app and be like, but it wasn't like that. It was just like very off, like very like tired, very like tired in the mind, but tired physically. And so when we're going through that time of the month, we feel physical exhaustion. It doesn't necessarily equate to mental exhaustion. So I'm just feeling exhausted at all fronts. And I do a lot. God has graced me to be able to do a lot. Like when I tell you I'm doing a lot of things, I'm doing a lot of things. Okay. Not complaining about it, but I'm pretty sure I do more than the average person. My kids think that I'm crazy and it is what it is, but I've always been able to bear the load of a lot of things. And I was beginning to feel overwhelmed. And we know that God is not the author of confusion. He's not the author of fear. He's not the author of any of these negative emotions that we feel, but he will use them. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof in that? Go back and listen to Bible bangers when we were talking about Job. That it's all within there. God said, test my servant Job and see. And so immediately I knew what my response needed to be. I was just like, first, I feel off. I feel very unmotivated. But I couldn't even pull from the discipline. So there's a difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is almost like getting hit with jumper cables, right? It's like, you're like, okay, we're good. That's the motivation. And it comes and flows and ebbs and flows. Like you don't need to jump to start your car all the time. But discipline is like your starter, if you will. It ignites you and your car is able to go. You're able to go at a steady pace. And so even if I am not motivated to do something, I still have discipline. I still have a level of discipline on reserve to be like, hey, I literally said it like this. Discipline is doing what you said you wanted and negating how you feel. So when they be like, forget your feelings. Your feelings be lying to you. Okay. So sometimes your feelings lie and you just have to remember your why. So I'm sure you guys have heard, remember your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And it's very true. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to accomplish. And even when I was breaking it down to my daughter with my 12-week year of Atomic Habits, that's coming to a close in March. I can't believe it. but it kind of almost felt like I really wasn't doing anything because I wasn't doing my check-ins like I was supposed to. Look, I can admit, something always gonna fall between the cracks, but I wasn't doing my check-ins, so I really didn't know, how much I was doing until I was like actually took the time to do a check-in, and then I realized I was like, oh, bet I actually am doing a lot more than I thought that I was doing. This is absolutely awesome. So I realized that I was doing a lot more than I thought that I was doing, and that really helped me see that, like, okay, this is working. I'm getting some momentum, and I could feel myself on like the precipice of a huge shift. And all of a sudden, I get mentally and physically tired, like exhausted, and just literally rolling around in my bed, just like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't have any energy, knowing what my daily allotment of things that I need to do, haven't got any of it done, pushing a lot of things off. Even right now, but I had to get on this podcast to do this. This is one of the things that I need to do. But even with that being said, there were just like so many things that I knew that I needed to do, and I was not doing them. And I had to come to this conclusion of like, wait, something is going on. And my immediate response was, I need to talk to God. I need to talk to God. So I was like, if all I have is the energy to lay in my bed and be completely catatonic, let me put on my headphones, right? Let me listen to some worship instrumental and begin talking to the Lord. And know, okay, you're being attacked. Sometimes attacks from the enemies come in the form of depression. It comes in the form of sadness. It comes in the form of anxiety. It comes in the form of fear. Those are his tools, just like the Lord had me watching Assassin's Creed, the movie, which I think I need to watch it again, because when I was watching it, I was trying to do homework and watch it at the same time, and I was just feeling a little bit distracted, but he was like pressing upon me to watch it, and I was just like, I I need to watch it again, because obviously, I can't listen and hear what I need to hear if I am doing too many things at once, that's me. I'm the multitask queen. But it's just like that. Assassins have, darts. They have AK-47s. They have poisons. They have things like that. So does the enemy. The enemy has his tools as well. And you have to understand when you're being attacked. I know myself. I know who God created me to be. I know that he created me to be able to bear the load of much. I've been like this way all my life. I've been mentally strong, physically strong all of my life. And so when I'm feeling myself getting like really weak, and it's not even like burnout, because I used to get burnt out quite often, thinking that I was invincible. So just because he gave me the ability to do more than the average does not mean I'm invincible. So I had to really come to terms with that. But I also know that, hey, my bare minimum is feeling really exhausted, like mentally exhausted and agitated, and I'm self-assessing. That's why renewal in our mind is important, right? I will constantly talk about self-awareness, self-check-ins, because it's very important. If we're not doing this, we're letting things go unchecked, and that leads to destruction. So I self-assess myself. I was like, oh, he's trying to like attack me right when I'm at the point of hitting a major accolade. Oh, okay, this is what this is. Okay, so I know what to do. And so I was having a conversation with my daughter, and I was like, sometimes you feel yourself having an internal struggle. You feel yourself feeling very defeated, but you put on a mask and you continue to move forward. I told her, that's not what you do. You stop. You stop immediately. You stop, you get on your knees, you stop, you lay in that bed and listen to some worship music, you stop and you talk to God till you get your revelation. And even though this was actually weird because usually, I have these moments. I tell her, everybody is depressed. Everybody has depression to a certain extent of severity because it is an attack from the enemy. So we all gonna get hit with a dart of depression, and we all have to be wise enough to know what to do in that area. And it might be taboo for some people because they'll be like, well, that's not the case, and da 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 da. And I'm like, just try it. Just try it, because you can't put on a brave face every time you're feeling down. You have to acknowledge this feeling. You have to acknowledge it, because if you don't, it's going to go unchecked. If I call you out by your name, I called you out. There's one of the things in the Bible where the Lord was like, okay, like, demon, what is your name? They were like, Legion, because we is many. Like, you got to call these things out by their name before you kick them out. Okay? So what did I have to do? I laid there. I listened to my worship music. I prayed. I was like, God, I don't know what's going on. And then I started speaking the word over it. You have to know that he has given us the authority to tread on snakes and scorpions, and that is powerful because we have God-given authority. And it was so crazy because one of my dreams, it was such an insane dream, and it's bad because I'm a seer. I have a lot of like vivid dreams, and I really need to go back to Holy Spirit with this dream. But in this dream, I was like sitting in a chair like a lazy boy in front of the TV. I'm in not my childhood, but it's my childhood home, right? I'm in my childhood home and in my living room and sitting in a lazy boy, which we've never had a lazy boy, I don't think, ever in that living room. But I'm sitting in front of it, and the only thing I can make it out is like it's trying to, like, I don't know, like I got mothering spirit from whatever this was. But I couldn't really tell, whatever the case may be. But they're like, you need to watch this show. You need to watch the show. And I'm very like leery of when things are talking to me in dreams, as you should be, because not every dream is a dream from God. Not every dream is a dream from the enemy. Sometimes these dreams are even from yourself. So that is also a tool. Things that you dream about. So I'm like, what? And then they kept saying, ordained. You're ordained. Ordained. And I'm like, sitting in a lazy boy chair, like, I've never heard of that show. So, even getting that messaging from him and knowing that, okay, I need to do a little bit more digging, I need to do a little bit more research on that. But it's coming into conclusions of what's going on. So if I don't first acknowledge that something is afoot or awry or something's going off or wrong with me, I'm not giving God, I hate to say it this way, but I'm not giving him the permission to heal it. He is never going to force himself upon it. There ain't never been a portion that I've read in the Bible where he forced healing upon people. I've been to where he offered healing. He showed great miracles and wonders, Jesus Christ. And then people didn't want it, and they said, get out of our town. Okay. And Jesus wasn't like, oh no, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to do what I got to do. You about to get this blessing. That never happened. That never occurred. He went on his way. So you have to be forthcoming with everything that's wrong. You can't lie to him. And honestly, quiet is kept. I know like church will get you to believing that like you have to come to God in a certain way and da da da. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you just gotta tell God like how you feel, like what's on your mind, like frustrated. And sometimes I give that to my kids. I call it open forum, because I'm resilient enough where you could say something to me and I can listen to you and I can understand what you're saying in the midst of however you said it. if I give you that open forum, right? Open forum means I'm fully prepared to receive this information, however you're going to deliver it to me, and know that your frustration, your anger, your hostility, it is not a direct hit towards me. It's just an overall encompassing of just how you're trying to release this information out. So that's how it is with God. He knows that we get frustrated. He knows that we get angry. He knows that we get upset. He's given us those emotions. Jesus used to get angry, upset, and irritated too. That's why he came on earth to have a human experience, to let us know that, hey, I am God and I understand that you're going to go through these things, but please pay attention to what I do when I'm feeling this way. We have to give it to the Lord. I'm not saying this as like, I read the Bible and just give it to the Lord in prayer. Like, no, I'm telling you that this happened like yesterday, for the past 2 days, where I was just like feeling severely overwhelmed with everything that I had to do, everything that I know that he told me to do, and just feeling like, hey, why all of a sudden the way that I explained it to my daughter, it's like, I know how to juggle, and then all of a sudden I'm juggling and I can't keep a ball in my hand. I can't master any of it. I like suddenly lose the ability. And I told her that is a key indicator that you have been hit by an attack. Okay. When you are just like, dang, like something's off. And she was like, well, do you feel like it's the time change? And I was like, no, it's not the time change. I'm actually loving that. I'm just getting this extra sleep and everything. I'm feeling good about that. But I was just like, something's off with myself. Like, and then I could see it in my face, and I could just tell that I wasn't myself, or that I was off. You have to be able to self-assess yourself and know when you're not okay and what to do. And you could be not okay, and God will be like, oh, speak to this person. Or if you have a therapist, talk to a therapist. Like I said before, I need a therapist, but I need a very specific therapist. But I went to the Lord with it. I said, I don't know. And then anytime I say, I don't know, I immediately know. God will hit me with that often. I'll say, oh, I don't know. And it's like, no, you immediately know. And so I know that it is, a plan from the enemy, because I've just been doing so many things, and um interceding and going in behalf of things, and really just taking a stance like never before for the things that God is telling me to take a stance for, that I just knew, like, oh, here's a last ditch effort for the enemy to try to, get a lick in. And it didn't work, because when you are in constant communication with God, when you are in constant communication with the Holy Spirit. And that was like another thing. Like, I have a very specific routine of things that I do. And sometimes I get busy. Okay. Sometimes I legitimately get busy, and it's not like I forget. It's like time escapes me. So it's like I'm supposed to do it at a certain time, and then I don't, and then I see the time and I'm like, oh my God, pause for the cause. I have to spend my time with God. I have to get into my word. And it was one of those moments where my mind was just so preoccupied, where it's like I couldn't get it out. Like, I literally was like, okay, I need to do this homework assignment, and I had to shut my computer. I literally was like, nope, no, I can't even think right now. I can't even focus right now. I need to go talk to God. I need to go talk to God. And that's exactly what I did. And I woke up from our conversation, and I felt better. I felt more rejuvenated. I felt like myself. And it's not to say that I wasn't in constant communication with him this whole time. I was in constant communication with him this whole time, but I have to name when something is going wrong. I have to be transparent with him when I feel a certain type of way. And I do it a lot, and I had to think about it too. It's like, man, like how do I say it? It's like I pray for myself, but I don't be praying for myself. Does that make sense? It's like I'm more of an intercessor. I'm more of like praying for other people, praying it down for other people. Like, no, Lord, like, like that's how I'm usually doing things. And so when it came to me interceding for myself and just being like, well, dang, I thought I was doing that, but it's like, no, like sometimes you, not sometimes, all the time. It was something that I just should have always been doing. I pray for other things concerning myself, but it was, like just praying for, the endurance to see the promise, praying for a sound mind, a peace of mind, because all the enemy can do is suggest. And that's another thing. And these are conversations that I have with my son, conversations that I have with my daughter, just making it very apparent to them to know it is written that the Lord will come to you in a still, small voice. And when he say, my sheep know my voice, another they will not follow. You're like, okay, like, what does that mean? Have you ever been a kid and you was doing something you was not supposed to do? Let's say you was in a public setting. Matter of fact, we all have been to church, we was wilding out or whatever, church is going on, and you hear your mama say, sure, be like, you gotta get it together, and it's loud too. It's not like, but you just hear like a very, shut it, it's your mama. Baby, you tighten up real quick. That's the only way that I can equate it to. It's like you, or like the sheep will know my voice. Case in point, my son is graduating. We are at a football field in the stands, and they call my son's name, and I'm like, and my son is like, I knew that was you. He literally heard me and looked exactly where I was at because he knows my voice. Your children know your voice. And so we're God's children and we know his voice. So generally, when we are having a hard time with our direction and everything like that, it's typically because we haven't developed the knowing of who is talking. That's why it's very important to read his word. Not only that, but to come into conversation with him, because if we're not having those conversations with him, if we're not talking, if we're not seeing how he moves, because you have to think like, he is a gentleman. He's not going to force himself on you. He's not about to be yelling at you and doing that. He will do that, if you push him to the point of wrath, but he's always going to come to you with a still small voice. So it'll be times where, it's one thing that I've been going back and forth with him for almost like a year and a half. Back and forth. That's crazy. But back and forth with him for a year and a half. Just because I got a confirmation in an instant and I was just like, I don't know about this, Lord. Like, on paper, this do not make no lick of sense. But he's been very firm in what he said. And I just have to believe him. Even when it doesn't look like that, even when I don't feel like it's going to happen, sometimes, and don't be scared to test him, because he'd be like, test and see. And baby, I be testy, and I will test him. And I will ask him, I'll be like, Lord, look, you better give me a sign, or I'm about to pack it up and keep it moving, because I'm standing and agreeing for this thing, and I'm still standing and agreeing for this thing. I'm still waiting. So you're going to have to give me something, while I wait, to let me know that my waiting is not in vain, because I'm waiting. And he did it. he didn't do it right when I asked him to do it. He said, "Girl, I'm still your dad. Chill out." Um, but when I least expected it, or when I no longer let that irritation like occupy my thoughts, all of a sudden I just get a little like blip, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm not crazy. I am hearing correctly. And you just have to have those conversations with them. And it's hard because, the world is so quick to medicate and so quick to give you a quick fixes and so quick, 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 quick. And don't get it wrong, like the Lord will move swiftly when he want to move swiftly. But there's so many things that happen in like a split second instant. And we come from a popcorn community where we want it just that fast, that you're measuring yourself against other people. Okay. All of our relationships with God is very personal. It's very singular. There are certain things that we all must do. Like we all must read our word. We almost all must pray, but our prayers aren't the same. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we are to be in relationship. So we're in relationship. We're in covenant with God. So we're in relationship. This is not religion. This is relationship. So it's no different than in the natural. You have a romantic relationship. How does that relationship grow? That relationship grows by you spending time with that person, knowing that person, learning that person, understanding when this person does this, what does this mean? Understanding how that person speaks, because the Lord speaks in so many different ways. You have to be a student of to understand how he speaks. And then, which is crazy because he speaks back to you in a way that you understand. Girl, sometimes I don't even be understanding how I be understanding things. So but then he still gives you the helper, which is Holy Spirit, to help you, draw conclusions. And all you have to do is ask the right questions. And continue to ask questions and continue to be inquisitive. The Lord doesn't want you to be mindless. That's why he gave us a mind. That's why he made us to be creators. That's why we are creatives, because he is the great creator and he made us in our image, or he made us in his image. And so he gave us free will because he wants us to choose him fully, unequivocally. And he chooses us no matter what. So it's almost like, how do I want to say it? It's almost like we sometimes live our life before we come into relationship with Christ, being like secret millionaires and never knowing it. We have a father that has owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, has streets paved with gold, has a house with many rooms, and all of this. And we walk around like the prodigal son, like paupers, and even worse, because prodigal son knew he came for some money, but we don't know that. We don't have that knowing. We don't have that understanding yet. And the whole while, he's just waiting for us to come back home so he can lavish us even more. I want us to destigmatize that having a bad day or having a battle with anything mental illness wise, it's not something to like, how do I want to say this? The world makes you like wear it as a badge of honor, like a pet. They'd be like, oh, I have depression. Oh, well, I have depression and anxiety. Well, I have manic depression. And it's like, they wear it with so much pride, where God didn't give us those things. Do you know what I'm saying? He didn't give us those things. And even if he permitted those things, because he can give permission, like in Job. You think Job was in the rightest of rightest minds? No. He was going through it, literally through it. Okay? That whole thing would have made me depressed. For real, for real. For real, for real. Could you imagine, like, all your kids is gone. You got your wife that's supposed to be the helpmate who ain't helping a mate. Talking about some curse your God and die. Like, you got your friends saying, you's a lame. Like, you got all this going on, and all you have is your hope in the relationship that you know that you have. So even when he's silent, you know that you have this relationship. So even when everything around you is looking kind of crazy, you have to come out of agreement with those things, because when we come into agreement, it's like a contract. We're signing up and we're saying, yep, I have this and I'm agreeing to it. And yep, this is what I got and I'm claiming it. I don't know about you. The only thing I'm trying to claim is my kids and my taxes and cats, if they would let us claim them. So I'm not trying to claim no spirits on me. The only spirit I'm claiming is the one that God gave me, and Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? So we really have to come to him when we're feeling those things and seek his face and have conversations with him about it, and not try to wear a mask and save face and try to hold it all together, because we can't do it. We can't physically not do it. He said we could do all things through Christ who can strengthen us, but that's not one of the things. Okay? That is not one of the things, because guess what? We can't do those things outside of God. We can't do those things outside of Christ. And so you're trying to self-medicate, or you're trying to distract yourself, or you're trying to create a persona or a facade, or you're trying to throw yourself away, because a lot of people who have like identity issues, they try to throw away who God created them to be and create a whole new identity. And God can't bless the fake you. He can only bless the real you, because the real you knows what to do with it. Fake you, they don't know what to do with it. So you can't adopt the fake you. You need to let fake you go, okay? And walk into the real you's blessings. But I just wanted to pop on here and share that, because we have to have these real, these raw conversations of how we are attacked on our way to ascension. You're going to get attacked. It's inevitable. It is inevitable. Okay. When David was, on his way to be the king, like, he was the king, but Saul was the acting king, but he was anointed to be the king, ordained to be the king. Okay. And he still faced so much attack, which I'm probably going to have to do a Bible banker on that, because that just has so many different layers within that story alone, that it just puts you into a perspective of, guess what, y'all? Adversity is faced by everyone. Okay? Adversity is going to come. It's inevitable. It is a part of the human experience. It's what you do when adversity comes that's important. That's what the whole training manual of the Bible is. What are you supposed to do when your enemy is at your door with the AK-47? Okay? When he's got the out of her mind starter pack, out of his mind starter pack, ready to drop the grenade on you. What are you going to do? You need to know the posture that you need to have. And everything is pointed back to him. It's pointed back to God. It's pointed back to talking to him. It's pointed back to worship. It's pointed back to silencing all noise. That means you got to get off social media for a couple of days. If that means that you're fasting, whatever it takes, you're going to have your breakthrough. And that's where the power lies. We are more powerful than the enemy. Okay? We are more powerful than the enemy, but he continues to trick us day in and day out of our authority, out of our ability to have power to tread over snakes and scorpions. God gave Adam dominion over this earth. We are descendants of Adam. We have dominion over this earth. That means we're dominant over everything in this earth. And we have the power and the authority to attack our enemies at any given point. So anytime we pray, I love this. First of all, I don't think it's a TikTok. I just think it's like some video on Instagram, but it's so true. And, it goes like, the caption is like, every time you pray, uh, you attacking the enemy. And I'm like, yes, because it's true. And she was like, our Father, boo, 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 that art in heaven, boo, boo, hallowed be thy name. Boo, boo, boo. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so true, because that's exactly what it is. You need to know your power. You need to know your authority. You need to know what to do when you got hit by a stray in the battle. You have to pray the things through, the promises through, and the word of God through, because his word never returns to him void. So if his word never returns to him void, if he said it, we believe it, because he's a man of his word. This has been another episode of the From Her View podcast with me, Sade Camille. I can't wait to see you guys next time for another episode. Bye.